Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am going to do a spread in my Life Crafted album. I have got some of the Pink Fresh Studios Happy Blooms collection, the 6x6 paper pad, and I've got a couple of packs of die cuts. I also have a bunch of brand new exclusives from Citrus Twist, the new True Life Volume 2 stamp set. I've got some die cuts, I've got some puffy stickers, all sorts of stuff. I'm going to combine all of it together today to create a spread featuring two just slightly smaller than 3x4 photos of my little buddy Jack before and after his brand new haircut. Now, I think one of the things that my No Pink Challenge Month kind of taught me is that sometimes you just have to embrace those colors that you don't necessarily love. While I don't think that there's anything wrong with using pink on a layout for a boy, I know Jack, I know it doesn't suit him at all. He is definitely not a pink kid. Tracy and him, they love green. It's just one of those things. I'm gonna have to learn how to love it. So I'm gonna use quite a lot of green in my layout today. One of the things that I started off with was just a very little sketch for myself, a very basic idea. And as I started working on this layout, it wasn't really coming together the way that I've wanted it to. So I kind of end up having to do a little bit of a pivot. The first thing I'm going to do is just trim down these photos just a little bit more. I've left quite a large white border on them. I printed two sort of 3x4-ish photos on a 4x6 piece of paper, and it didn't quite print properly. So when I trimmed it out, the edges were a little bit uneven, which actually ended up working to my advantage, because had they been even, I would not have been able to do what I'm about to do now, which is to mat both of these photos with this one 6x6 piece of paper. So because I've got those slightly smaller photos, it means I can use, it's just a very small mat, but I love that it adds all of those pops of colors. And yes, there is some pink in there, so I feel a little bit comfortable. But because the photos were a little bit smaller, it means that the piece that I trimmed off from the first photo is actually the right size to mat my second photo. So I got really lucky there, a combination of luck and poor printing. So this was my original idea for the photo placement, was to have one photo on each side of the spread, kind of a really, I guess, horizontal sort of layout. I've already gone through both of the Pink Fresh Studio and the Citrus Twist die cuts and pulled out some of the ones I want to use on this layout. And as I start trying to place everything, I just really struggled. I really struggled to find a balance of the layout. I'm bearing in mind that I do want to add some of those pattern papers that I've pulled out. I want to stamp a title, and despite having that little sketch, once I put this into sort of real life, it just was not working. I think some of the die cuts I pulled out were maybe a little bit larger than I thought they were going to be, a little bit different shaped. I really wanted to use that Always Adventure sort of word card one, and none of it really worked. So I'm kind of going to swap tacks here, and I decided to place both of the photos on the right hand side. Luckily, the photos fit. I do have to overlap them a little bit, but they do both fit vertically. And so that's where I'm kind of going to change things up. So I'm going for a much more vertical layout than I had originally intended, and it's just going to work a lot easier. And I actually, spoiler alert, I love the outcome of it. So sometimes I guess it pays to just play around a little bit. I was struggling with things moving as I was playing though, so I grabbed out a little bit of temporary adhesive just to keep some of those things in place so I could shuffle the die cuts around without me knocking the photos around every time. And so I'm going to just stack a lot of those die cuts along this sort of vertical line of these photos. So not necessarily going for my usual sort of 3 clusters, more kind of using that verticalness and adding the die cuts and kind of those embellishments along those vertical lines instead. So here I go, I'm embracing green. The back side of the paper that I mounted on the photos has this lovely sort of emerald green, Kelly green sort of color pattern on it. I want to use that, and I'm going to repeat that kind of vertical edge along the left-hand side of this page as well. So I used both of those papers that I've got on the left there are just offcuts. So the green plaid was an offcut from another project, and obviously these papers are only 6 by 6 inches, so they're not going to fill up my Life Crafted page, which is a 5 by 8¼ inches each side of the page. So all I'm doing is just stacking them, trying to like make those edges a little bit uneven. I did add a smaller strip from the other side of that pattern paper, so that echoes the pattern that I used to mat the photos with, again tying it all together. And then I've got a much better base for kind of adding some of those embellishments. Now I'm adding the lemons. I love the little lemons. They remind me so much of Jack. He has a lemon tree that he loves to eat lemons directly off of, so lemons always remind me of him. So I really want to add those in here. I've got one on the right hand side, and then when I came to this left hand page, this was where I sort of found that I got a little bit more balance, because I can add my lemon a bit further down on the page. And that gives me that kind of visual line from the bottom left to the top right, and it just helped me balance all of that out. Now everything is just kind of temporarily adhered for the moment, and I'm going to leave it that way, but it gives me a good base for working out where I'm going to stamp my title. So like I said, I'm going to stack 2 of these sort of more handwritten looking sentiments. One of them says just, one says the best, and I'm just testing that out on a scrap paper because I haven't actually stamped these particular stamps before. I am cheating, and I've got them both on one block, which I have had failures with before, but this one worked out just fine. And I'm going to add just some other additional words in there with the, I think it's the Chloe Alpha set. I'm not sure if that's available anymore. Any of these things I will link down below in the description box for you if I can. And just by adding those few additional words, stacking them up, I can create my own title. It's totally unique to me. I'm not reliant on a stamp set, and I just love this technique. I don't think I'll ever get bored with it, to be honest. There are so many possibilities. A good alpha stamp and a stamp set with so many versatile words like this, you will be able to stamp a million different titles. Now look at me being all planned out and using my ruler guide to try and get my stamping as straight as possible. I didn't have a whole lot of room in there to add the word the, so it is, the stamps are a little bit kind of squished together. So I'm going to echo that at the top just to make it look purposeful rather than mistaken. And I'm stacking U and R above each other, and so I've started with the O and the U so that when I stamp the Y, I can drop that down on sort of the left-hand side of the R, and it just makes it look all sort of purposefully stacked together, and I love it. Now I'm going to go ahead and adhere all of this stuff down properly. I'm almost out of tape runner at the moment, so I'm going to use some liquid adhesive to do that. I really like the scrapbook.com smart glue. I'm just lifting one edge of the paper at a time, and I'll do the same on the other side with the photos and all of my little die cuts until that is all adhered down. I'm going to add just a few tiny words of journaling, not a whole lot. I have typed them out on some very thin computer paper. Then I can use the last little bit of my tape runner here to adhere that down. This is my favorite technique for adding my journaling on like that, because you really can hardly see that I've used an additional piece of paper. My last little finishing touch is to add a few of these hearts, a few of these puffy sticker hearts. I love them. I've already used a ton from the sheet, but this gives me the perfect excuse to use up a few of those green ones I probably would not have picked out otherwise. And you can see they work perfectly with this layout. So I think that my No Pink Challenge month definitely did me good. I'm embracing the greenness of life and enjoying the results. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.